Assalamu alaikum, and this is Tahira, and I wanted to just let you all know that we wrapped up week 2 for the Widows Support Group for Muslim women and women of faith. And today our topic was on coping with stress and anxiety. And this session was a really informative session and very beneficial to the sisters in attendance. And it was just really heartfelt to hear our beloved sisters just share about how they were able to, cope with their stress and anxiety, some of the stress points that they experienced and some of the stress points that they're dealing with now. And, some sisters have been widowed for 12 years, 10 years, 2 years, and some were still fresh within their first year. And what we touched on in the area of coping with stress and anxiety, especially under the environment that we're in with the COVID environment, like losing your spouse in the environment of COVID, it just adds on several layers of stress and anxiety when you're coping, because one of the ways to lessen stress is to not dwell in isolation. Now, under the environment that we're in, like we are all isolated to some degree because we're socially distancing. We are sheltered in place. Our local masjids or churches or community centers are not open. Being able to travel freely to be with family and friends is just not an option because we are following the public health guidelines. And with that said, that makes grieving or coping with stress and anxiety even more challenging and difficult, right? So some of the ways that we can actually cope in the environment that we're in are joining virtual groups. That's one way. We have a support group here that you can join. Also, there are many Zoom events that are happening and virtual events that are occurring where you can connect with your community members and you can be among your peers that help you to not dwell in isolation. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bereavement or a grievance support group. It can be dealing with the topic of business or the topic of religion or the topic of sports and play. It's like whatever topic is of interest to you, that where people are gathering, that's something that you can do to not dwell in isolation. Also, some of us live alone, so we have no other choice but to deal with the fact that we live alone. If you do live alone, things that you can do also is join virtual groups. You can communicate with your family and friends by FaceTiming them and being a part of like social groups, whether it's on WhatsApp and you're a part of a social group on WhatsApp, or you're a part of a group text chain. Like I know with my family and I, we have our family group text chain where we text each other and send pictures and crack jokes with each other, and we just converse through text, and that is comforting in and of itself. I know I usually send like videos to them and post my videos in the family group chat. That helps. If you do live with someone, if you have family members, whether it's children or whatever your family members consist of, rather than being in your room alone, you can actually come out of your bedroom and congregate with your family in-house. Like you can sit in the living room and watch a movie together. You can read a book together. You can play music together. You can cook together. You can just be in the same room. You may not even have to say anything together. Just by being in each other's presence helps you to not dwell in isolation. Also, what you can do is you can actually, depending on your level of comfortability now, you can meet with a friend and go for a walk in a park. You can wear your mask, you can have your protective gear on, and you can walk 6 feet apart, and you could be in the presence of someone where you're outdoors and you're not dwelling alone. So that's one way to cope with stress and anxiety under the environment that we are in, because these are extraordinary times that we're living in when you're dealing with stress and anxiety with respect to losing a loved one. These are not normal circumstances. It's stressful enough when you lose a loved one. Compound that with being social distance. I mean, compound that with being in an environment where you cannot gather. So I want to say this before I conclude, that we have 2 more weeks remaining, and week 3 for the widow support group would be on changing roles in relationships and overcoming loneliness. And the registration will remain open for widows to join. There is no registration cutoff date. The doors are open, our hearts are open, and we embrace you and we welcome you to join. So we really appreciate you taking time to watch this video, and please share with any widows who you know that this will benefit, because the sisters who are a part of this group, they are benefiting tremendously, and we're just grateful to be of service. So thank you so much, and may the prayers and the blessings of God be with you all. Assalamu alaikum.